All right, welcome everyone. We are glad you are with us today for our webinar. We're going to give it just a minute for everybody to filter in. Um, Go ahead and click on the chat down below so we can get to know each other. If you'll switch that chat to everyone instead of host and panelists, that'll let everybody see your questions and comments. So while we're waiting on folks to file in, please let us know where you're joining from.
And again, as everyone's getting sort of settled and popping in, we're just giving everyone a second to get everything sound and video right.
Yeah, good old Zoom. We got to make sure all the settings are correct. All right, we've got Las Vegas, St. Louis, California, Grass Valley. All right. Um, well, why don't we go ahead and get started so we can get into the topic for the day. The topic, obviously, if you're joining us with us today, we're talking about funding your education today. We have these conversations about, once a year, we like to come back to this because we know that it's a big question on everyone's mind. One of the biggest things that in your decision-making process. So we at ACHS want to make sure that we have not only good information for you, but we have a lot of options and support for you during this process while you're making that decision, um, to think about things both in the short term and the long term. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today with a couple of experts. Joining us today, we have Amanda Heller, our Director of Enrollment Services. So she has been working with students quite a long time. She and I together, I think, have a combined total probably around 20 some odd years in the industry. And then we have Mike Wilson, our financial aid advisor. He works with students every day, to help them get this stuff set up. Also a longtime veteran in the higher ed community from the financial aid side of things. So he balances us out. We help with the setup of the courses. He helps with the funding part of it. So we work very closely together every day. We're excited to have you all here to hear from these two today. Yeah, and so just as Amanda put in there, just a quick note, we want to hear from you all today, but you'll notice that your line is muted. That's just because we're recording the webinar. We want to make sure that the sound quality is good. But again, make sure you're switched in chat to everyone instead of hosts and panelists. Type your questions in there, and we'll do our best to answer those questions along the way. And then we'll also have a section of time where we can jump in and see if there's any questions we missed. If there's anything that is very specific to your situation, it may be something we may need to follow back up with you on individually, but we have the chat recorded as well, so we'll know who to follow up with. So feel free to put your questions in there. So who are we? If you've joined with us before, you've probably seen this slide, but it's something we definitely want to make sure we touch on every time we have a webinar, because this is our history and where we evolved from. ACHS has been in operation for over 45 years now, and it has had students from all over the globe, 60 different countries, in some form or fashion. This is all from the mind of our founding president, Doreen Peterson, who initiated this whole thing that we have today, and it has grown, as you see there on the right side, from the very beginning when it was just certificates and distance learning through the mail. Now we offer everything on an online platform, from certificates all the way up to a doctoral program. So quite a lot of growth in that time, and a lot of research and dedication to this part of healthcare. As I said, we specialize in online distance education because we want to make this type of education accessible to the whole globe. So online gives us that platform to do that. We've been in online distance education the whole time we've been in existence, but in this modern format, we've been accredited by the Distance Education Accrediting Commission since 2003. So 22 years now working with them to make sure that we're we're offering things the best way that we can to bring the value to you. Um, so you may see a lot of schools that are coming out with new online programs, especially since 2020. Now you can find a lot of stuff online out there, but we feel confident that our method has been, tried and true for a long time. And then beyond that, we take a focus beyond just our education and our institution into our communities. We are a certified B Corp, which means that we apply each year to be for that certification. And it basically means that we have a commitment to the advancement of sustainability in our communities. And we live all over the country that work here. So those communities spread a long way, whether it be volunteer events in our cities or webinars like we're doing now. We want to bring this type of information to everyone, but also show our service to our communities. So very proud of that. So a quick look at our mission and vision. Our mission is to lead the advancement of evidence-based integrative health and wellness education through experiential online learning and sustainable practices. And our vision, if we've achieved our mission, is that integrative health and wellness education is accessible to a global community promoting sustainable and healthy futures for all. So you notice a few things underlined in there. That's because we're going to be sort of touching on this a lot today, not just talking about how to fund your education, but thinking about it from a different level. So you see integrative health and wellness. Integrative health, if you've studied it before with us or if you're getting into it, is basically the intersection of all the different components of healthcare, mind, body, spirit, everything that goes into it. We actually believe that financial wellness is a part of that equation as well. So looking into the future, making sure that not only what you're learning is what you want to be learning and it's going to lead you to that end point, whether it be a career or your own business. We want to make sure that your funding is sustainable as well, and that we're thinking about things for the long term. So that brings access. As we'll look at later on today, uh, we have a variety of ways to fund your education, and that we believe brings more access to more people. Many of you have been to school at other places before and have experience with funding your education. Um, but we hear from a lot of students that it was never fully explained what the options were. So a lot of times that leads to just thinking you only have one option, or maybe two options. You either pay everything out of pocket or you take out loans. And that's really not true. There's a whole spectrum of things in between there that we can help you put together. And we believe that that will lead to not only just an education, but a sustainable and healthy future for you and then from to the people that you will go on to help. So I'm going to kick it off here in a second to our panelists, but what we're going to be looking at mostly today, just to kind of set the scene, are three pillars of funding plans. This is sort of how we think about the different stages. And these may or may not apply to everyone, but for today's purposes, we're going to assume that we'll have a little bit of all of these. The first being the initial investment. So if you've met with the admissions team already, they may have asked you, have you thought about how you would fund your education? Usually the first thing that comes out is what you're thinking of as your primary method of funding. That may be your own funding source, self-pay options, maybe a 529 plan that you or your family has put aside, things like that. And it may or may not cover the entire tuition and materials needs. So from there, we look at what can be combined with that from an ongoing investment perspective. A lot of times we have people that don't know that they can make, a very small payment each month and that can add up to a large savings in the end. So we encourage, even if you can't cover your full tuition, think about putting a little bit towards it along the way to save yourself some interest and fees along the way. And then once those two things have been looked at and considered, there may be a remaining balance. So in that case, then we'll look at all the different options that are there to cover that remaining balance, whatever it may be. So a lot of options to cover today. So I am going to go ahead and kick it off to Amanda to take us through this first section.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy. So yeah, we thought breaking it up into sections would help us look at honestly the variety of funding methods that do exist and how we can help you make your education affordable as you achieve your goals and your starting classes. So the initial investment is like, what can we bring to the table to help cover expenses for school? As Troy mentioned, some people have been saving up or family members have, whether that's personal savings, college plans. Some people have been putting money aside themselves, knowing they're going to go back to school. And so they've just been slowly and steadily putting money to the side. Some people have upfront benefits through their employers, or they may have military or veteran funds and benefits they can utilize. We also have students that initially are immediately have done the work and applied and been approved for vocational rehab funds through their state or the military as well. So just sort of like, where have we been, may have funding sitting to help us cover our expenses up front with the goal of, again, making our schools affordable as possible and keeping the burden of student loan debt low as possible. Next slide. So let's break down military. We have so many students that are either active duty, have served, veterans who've retired from the military, or dependents such as children or spouses of veterans. And so we are a VA-friendly college, and we work with all VA benefits. Every single one of our programs are also VA approved. My entire admissions team is actually very well trained in all the VA benefits, and we also have an additional VA department standalone to support students through their program. So if you have questions about needing to either navigate what VA benefits you have or the first steps you need to take advantage of those, your admissions advisor will 100% be able to just support you in taking those steps. We are familiar with the GI Bill, both the Montgomery GI Bill post 9/11. We're familiar with Chapter 31, Chapter 35. We assist students in using active duty benefits as well, among other scholarship and benefit programs. So we'll literally help you navigate eligibility, applications, to-do list, paperwork we need to meet compliance, and support you in maximizing those benefits. So we always just ask that you're transparent with your admissions counselor, that you may or may not be eligible, what you may think you're eligible for. So honestly, they can just support you in going through and navigating that. Because occasionally I'll even have students that might think their benefits have been exhausted, and we find out they have a few months remaining. So our goal is to help support you maximize those benefits. You've earned them. That's so important. And help you put those into play as much as possible to either cover or offset your educational costs. Next slide. Our primary VA point of contact is Kashe Craven. She's the director of VA services, and she's our full VA certifying official. As well, I used to work in our VA department for quite a few years, and so we both have trained our team again on how all the benefits work and how to best support you. But if there's ever a question we cannot answer, or you're currently in your studies and you want to connect with the VA department, we can get you her phone number and email immediately, and for all support needs. And that includes even communicating with appropriate VA departments or navigating some ins and outs of your benefits as you go through school. We want you to feel 1000% supported to, again, maximize the benefits you earned. Next slide. So the ongoing investment. So Mike is going to talk about federal financial aid and the benefits of making investments, even small ones, through your educational programs, semester by semester, year by year, to help just really for us to see how little things we can do can make a huge impact on the long-term aspect of affordability. You want to take over, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. All right. Well, first off, I just want to thank everyone again for joining us today. So what Troy had mentioned early on is just the idea that students are able to make monthly payments and monthly contributions while they're in school, and for most financial aid students, they're usually funding their education through a combination of federal grants and federal student loans to help pay for their schooling. And so, one opportunity that we always like to present in our financial aid appointments to students is the ability to be able to make monthly contributions while you're in school as well. And so, the idea of this is that if a student is able to work this into their budget, something that's comfortable for them, it helps reduce the amount of student loans that are needed over the course of their program. So, it's really an idea for somebody who's looking to minimize their borrowing as much as possible and really just kind of use what's needed. And so we take a look here. This graphic will kind of give us an idea. So this is an example of somebody who's maybe pursuing a bachelor's degree, which could take anywhere between 40 to 80 months. So somebody who's even making like $25 per month, this will show that that's potentially $1,000 to $2,000 less in federal student loans that they needed to borrow over that time. And also it's around close to $400 to $800 there of potential interest and fees that they would save that would have maybe accrued with the use of federal student loans. And we can see an even bigger example with the $200 per month. A student can potentially save anywhere from $8,000 to $16,000 of loans that they would have borrowed over the course of that time just by making those monthly payments while they're in school. And the amount of interest and fees is even greater with that contribution. You're looking at $3,000 to $6,000 that could potentially be saved with that too. And so we'll learn a little bit more about these payment plans on the next slide here. Um,
And I think why the reason we also mention this is we have so many students that don't realize they can make payments and take out loans.
yeah,
We just want to support you. And again, making your education as affordable as possible. And if your goal is to borrow less and try to keep that number down, there are ways to do it. And then because of the interest you're saving, it ends up making a huge impact later on.
Yeah, and so you'll see with this slide here that there is no interest or fees when these are paid on time with these payment plans that students are making, and students are able to change their preference at any point too, and that's one thing that we let students know in their financial aid appointments is life is constantly changing, and our needs are constantly changing, especially while we're in school. So maybe your budget from one semester might not be the same as another, and maybe financial hardship may reach you, and so just know that it's very accommodating as far as the options that you have available to you and when you need to make those changes. But we'll see just a few other things here. So typically our semesters run 3 to 4 months, which means that the monthly payments that you'd be making each semester would be 3 to 4 monthly payments. And also these are set up on auto pay for the convenience of our students too.
Mhm.
So
Mike,
And
you
we
bring up
hope
a really good point. I just wanted to highlight, and the fact that this can be changeable throughout your education with us. So we hear that a lot too. A lot of times people think, whatever I set up in the beginning is kind of how I have to do it all the way through. But as your situation changes, you may be able to adjust things upward or downward. If you start off with, maybe federal aid, maybe some loans, but then decide later on you don't want to do that, and you can make that change and vice versa. So I think that's an important thing to highlight.
what I've noticed coming up too, just in the midst of changing as our life changes, is I've had students that get into new positions with employers and are then eligible for tuition assistance or tuition reimbursement. So sometimes when those situations come up and they receive their reimbursement, they may modify their payments or even increase the payments they're able to make because of that reimbursement from their employer. So we're happy to support you with all of that as life changes.
Great. All right. So as far as remaining balance goes, Amanda, I think you are going to take these next few slides.
We can take them together. So really, okay, we've looked at, do we have money set aside? Do we have college programs? Do we have family? Do we have VA benefits, benefits through your state, or part of a funding program that can help you cover some expenses up front? Then we're looking at, are you in a position to make a monthly payment, whether it's $20 a month, $50 a month, $200 a month? What can we budget and plan for to help offset your educational cost? Now, how do we cover the balance as we're putting these puzzle pieces together? I sort of already tapped into this, but the employer tuition reimbursement. There are so many statistics that literally over half of people don't even know that their company or employer offers educational benefits, and even a smaller percentage actually takes advantage of it. So we are here to assist. If you want to send over your benefit program details, your admissions advisor will support you if there's any required documentation that you need to actually submit for those approvals. Sometimes it's as simple as we'll get you in touch with our registrar's office so you can get your grade report after each semester to submit for the reimbursement. Some companies want to talk to someone at the college or have special paperwork filled out. We're happy to do any of that and get, again, to support you to maximize the benefits that you've earned through the company you're working with. We also have in our career services department, we have a point of contact that can also communicate with your HR department if there's ever any questions or they want to work with us with any tuition assistant programs as well. So we're fully ready to be your biggest cheerleader there. We also have scholarships. And then do you want to talk about grants and loans? Because it varies depending on undergrad, grad, those options.
Yeah, well, I'll cover those in one of our upcoming slides.
Okay, okay. But again, you don't have to just choose one option. I know you're going to hear that a lot, but I think we're just trying to be really genuine that we're happy to help you put a combination of funding methods together to cover your expenses for school. I literally have some students that might use 2 to 4 different funding to mesh it all to make it work for them. And that's okay, because it's all about making this, again, affordable for you to achieve your goals. Scholarships. So this is something I get asked on a daily basis. Does ACHS offer scholarships, and what if I get a scholarship while I'm in school? So one, ACHS does offer an adult and military scholarship. The military scholarships do have specific requirements, such as all benefits have to be exhausted and some other prerequisites. And then we offer an ACHS adult scholarship for enrolled students over 18, and they give out 10 of those a year. So we highly encourage students to apply. They are reviewed quarterly, and you'd be surprised how many students don't actually submit applications. We have had review quarters where there's only 2 or 3 applicants. So please, we encourage you to take the time, submit the essay and the letters of recommendation for the adult scholarship. We really want to highlight and be able to present those to students throughout the year, because every little bit can help people finish out their programs. As far as scholarships in general, we are a fully accredited college. So if you are taking the time throughout the calendar year to look and apply for scholarships, if you're ever awarded one, that can be applied to your student account immediately. There's a lot of amazing websites out there. I encourage students to sign up and review those, and even maybe take an hour or two every month, because scholarships are not guaranteed, but they're plentiful. They exist. It's just a lot of groundwork to get there. So I encourage students to create a Google spreadsheet as they come across scholarships that they match up with, they meet the criteria for. You save the website, maybe a note reminding you why you matched up, what the requirements are. Is it a simple form? Is it an essay? Do you need letters of recommendation? And when the due date is. Because you might find a fantastic scholarship, you match all the criteria, but it was due 2 months ago. We'll make a reminder, because I want you to apply for that for next year. If you receive scholarship money up through literally your last semester in school, that is money to help you offset the cost of your education. And we're here to support you and help you in doing that. So my advice is persevere, don't give up, and be consistent in your searches. And if you need any supporting paperwork from the college, do not be shy to ask us to support you with that as well. Because I have seen students receive everything from $500 scholarships up to very large scholarship amounts. And it can just be a huge gift in helping us cut down the amount of student loans you may need to borrow, or just in general, again, offsetting the cost of your schooling as you're working on your educational goals.
Just one thing I'd like to add too. Now's a great time to start your search. So, usually early in the year, early in the calendar year, that's when a lot of scholarships are really coming out and being offered. So, a great time to start your scholarship searches. We have some great resources on our website, so we'll go ahead and post that into the chat for you too. But we have at least 10 or a dozen reputable websites that you can begin your search that are on our website too. So like Amanda said, just research these different scholarships and apply for as many as you think that you may potentially qualify for, because the more that you apply for, the more you'll increase your chances of being able to obtain multiple scholarships.
And I actually encourage you to look in your community. Like, I know here in Portland, a bunch of the local community credit unions do public scholarship programs. My sister in college got one from the local fire department, the town she was living in. Use things like left-handed, women, men, veterans, spouse of veteran. If you are already in a specific career field, check any professional organizations you're already aligned with. For example, if you're a nurse or a massage therapist, go directly to your licensing and professional organization sites to see if there's any scholarship programs. Just be creative. I had a student last year who applied for one. I'm not sure who it was through, but her essay was on her favorite flavor of ice cream. It was totally legitimate. It was like a local company doing the scholarship program. So they do exist. It's just, you got to be a little gritty. Next slide. So employer tuition reimbursement. If you are not sure if you're eligible, I encourage you to check with your HR department directly. You might have, depending on how your company's structured, you might be able to send them a quick note or message or stop by their office. You also might be able to pull your employee handbook, or if you have an employee portal, find out about your benefit programs there. A lot of companies offer tuition and educational reimbursement programs, and they all may have different rules or requirements, such as so much money per year, so much depending on how many months or years you've worked with them. Some companies it's just like another benefit, like your insurance or vacation time. If you work for us, it's available. So I always, if you can, contact HR directly. Management can be a great chain to start with, but sometimes managers are not always aware if they have not utilized the benefits themselves. And just please don't be shy. I always tell students free money is good money. So the worst case scenario, you'll find out maybe you're not eligible or they don't offer an education program, but at least you asked. Because the programs can vary so differently company to company, you just want to get those fine details. Do they pay the college up front? Do they pay it reimbursement style? Do you have to maintain certain grades? Do they expect any special paperwork? Do you need your manager to initial or sign off that you are a student while you're working? Just getting through all those FAQs. I'd say 95% of the time, most companies pay reimbursement style. But I have came across, there are a handful of sometimes employers or companies that will pay upfront based on your invoice for your classes. So we can, of course, work with you if that's something that they're able to do, is pay upfront versus reimbursement. But again, your admissions advisor is going to be the best resource and advocate for you as you go through step by step to navigate and see what you can provide. I tell students all the time, send me over the policy. I'm happy to review it with you to make sure we don't miss anything. And my biggest piece of advice is do not be shy, be confident and brave to ask more questions if you're not sure. I have a current student who is in a program that in her current role, 'cause she's going back to school to pivot career paths, they are not approving her program as a whole since it doesn't align with her current accounting job. However, she sat down with HR and said, hey, I'm taking these classes, and if I can show how they benefit my work, is it possible you guys would cover, I'd be eligible for some of the reimbursement? And they actually agreed. So as she's working through her bachelor's degree, they are approving course by course, like some of her business classes, math, English. So they're not approving some of the core content since it's for a career change, but they can justify that her gen eds are benefiting her on a day-to-day basis with her career. So she got really creative and then said, okay, you said no to the program, but what about these 3 credit classes? And they totally had her back on it. And it was really creative and amazing. So, you know, again, I just really encourage you to check with your employers and HR. And we have a really cool factoid. Fewer than 10% of employees take advantage of their tuition reimbursement. Some people just don't know to ask. They don't know it's there. It may feel like a lot of work. Again, that's where we come in. We want to help you take that burden off if we can at all at any point in the process. But
Man,
just, mhm.
sorry, Amanda. I was one of the people that falls into this category in my
Mhm.
last organization. I had no idea, even though it was a part of my compensation package. You know, usually you get stuck looking at that salary or the, days of vacation, things like that. So once I had a chance to dig into my handbook, I found out that this was something that was offered to everyone. So, but you're right. Like the company itself may not be very eager to advertise this benefit just because it's worked for them, but it does benefit the company as well because it helps them on their taxes. So
But
we
also the return on investment with employees. They prove, and this again, data from HR, happier employees stay longer, they work harder at work, they feel more satisfied within their role and with the company as a whole. And that's why more and more companies have these programs. And it ranges from FedEx to McDonald's. It's amazing.
and I would parallel this to scholarships as well. There's a big misconception that before I enroll in school, I need to have all this stuff done. And get all this paperwork done and figure out, is it upfront? Is it retroactive? Every company is different, but sometimes it's beneficial to keep looking even after you started. You may find that it's not as difficult as you thought. And then once you're in the rhythm of going to school, you have a little bit more bandwidth to maybe go have those meetings. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Great point.
And at any time, if you do want to take that reimbursement funds, again, we can do direct payments for your upcoming semester. The financial aid office can guide you through how to pay down your student loans early as well. So more information and resources. Mike, this one's yours. You're the expert.
And great input too on that tuition reimbursement. I've even had just a couple students just within this year who I had brought it up and they had never thought to ask, and they utilized it for their programs. So just really great input on that. All right, so turning our attention to FAFSA. So FAFSA is the application for financial aid. I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with it, who have utilized or are looking to utilize financial aid for your programs. When students submit a FAFSA, you're applying for both federal grants, which is money that students are awarded that they don't have to pay back. You're also applying for federal student loans, which are optional and are there to help basically cover anything that the federal grants are not able to cover. So FAFSAs, they do need to be renewed each year. And, one misconception that a lot of students have is a lot of students think that they need to wait to file their taxes before they're submitting their FAFSA. But one thing to keep in mind is that the tax year that they use for the FAFSA is 2 years prior. And so for most students, those taxes would have already been filed, already been processed. And when that new FAFSA comes up, you should be good to go to go ahead and get that new FAFSA submitted. So right now, what's currently available is the 2024-25 FAFSA. That FAFSA is really going to be applicable for students with the upcoming spring semester and summer semester. And then there's also the 2025-2026 FAFSA that's currently available right now too. Students are encouraged to apply for both. It's great to apply for both. Usually we'll start using that 2025-26 FAFSA beginning the fall semester of this year, which will be around September. The 2024-2025 FAFSA, that's going to use 2022 tax information. 2022 tax information going back 2 years. And then with the 2025-26, the most recent and current FAFSA that's available right now, that one's based on the 2023 tax year. So that's how that's looking. Now, contributors might be required with your FAFSA. This is for either students who are married or students who are considered dependent by the Department of Education. So it might require a little bit of involvement with either the spouse or maybe some parents to help get that FAFSA submitted. And then you'll see here that our school code is also listed. So as you're doing the FAFSA, you just want to make sure to get our school code added so we can be notified of your FAFSA transaction. And that school code is 041944. All right, so we can take a look at the next slide here and just briefly go over the types of aid that are available to students through financial aid. So first off, we talked about the federal grants being money that's awarded to students that you don't have to pay back. It's really the greatest incentive of applying for financial aid. Just know that these federal grants are only available at the undergraduate level. They're not available at the graduate level. But still a great resource for students. And then outside of that, there's
Sorry, can I ask a quick question? Can you fill out your FAFSA just to see about grant eligibility if your goal is to still avoid loans? Like how, just navigating like the importance of filling out your FAFSA, even if you don't plan to use loans?
yeah, and that's a great question, and I would say all undergraduate students should be encouraged to submit FAFSAs just to see what your eligibility looks like. The thing is that a FAFSA itself for most people takes maybe a half hour to knock out, right? So you're taking maybe 30 minutes to 60 minutes of your day to see if you potentially qualify for thousands of dollars that can help pay for school that you don't have to pay back. So it's definitely worthwhile, even if you have no interest in using student loans. So yeah, great question,
Yeah,
Amanda.
because if you have any other funding methods, your Pell, we subtract that first, right, Mike? Each semester, like if you are Pell eligible, we take that off first. Then we can like split the balance into payments or use your college account or other funding methods.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so when it comes to federal student loans, there's two types of direct loans that are available to students, both the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. The subsidized loans are only available to undergraduate students. They're not available to graduate students. The perk with these subsidized loans is that interest does not begin accruing on those until they go into repayment. Repayment does not begin until 6 months after a student graduates. And so, basically that whole time that a student's active in their program, as long as they're at least half-time or greater throughout their program, there's no interest that's accruing on the subsidized loan. So it's a great option for students to use, and it's a first option that schools will set up for students as long as they qualify for it. The unsubsidized loan, that's the other type of loan that students will utilize, and this one can be used at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. At the undergrad level, it's kind of used as maybe like the back burner, the backup option. You're going to utilize your grants and your subsidized loans first. The unsubsidized loans are there to help just support whatever those first types of aid aren't able to cover. And then when you're at the graduate level, the unsubsidized loan becomes kind of the main funding option that students are able to use at that level. And they're offered quite a bit of potential eligibility to help pay for school costs once you're at that graduate level. That one works like a normal loan that we're all used to. Interest does accrue from the moment it's dispersed, basically through the life of the loan until that gets paid off. So you'll see that little note at the bottom there that some students, what they'll do, especially at the undergrad level, is they'll utilize that Pell Grant subsidized loan, and then they'll just try and cover the remaining balance if it works well for their budget to avoid using the unsubsidized loans. It's also a great option if it works well for students, and that avoids that interest accruing while you're in your program.
The reason we break this down for everyone is just comes from a very genuine place that in the 15 plus years I've worked in higher education is on a regular basis, my students don't realize they can choose. You don't have to take out both loans, for example, as an undergrad student. You can literally opt to only use subsidized versus unsubsidized. So we feel really strongly about ensuring that every time that any student's accepted and you meet with a financial aid advisor, you are empowered and you are provided all the information and education to make the best decision for you step by step through this process. Um, Being a smaller school, it's really important. You're not a number. If we go through any portion of this financial aid process, you would meet with a financial aid advisor, such as with Mike, one-on-one. It's really important to us that, again, you have all the information possible to make the best decisions possible about your funding. So you're not confused. We want to make sure you have that entire time to get all questions answered and just support you the best way possible.
All right. So Inceptia is an organization that we partner with, and they're really just a great resource for our students, both our active students and our inactive students. And really, they're there to help with student loan guidance and information. So, we have students who get reached out to by the counselors there, and it's really just to kind of help inform them. Your repayment's going to be coming up. Here's what to expect. Do you know who your federal servicer is? Do you know their contact information? And do you know your options that are available to you? So they're just a really great resource to help students with all of that information because it can be tough to navigate. A lot of times students' heads are, just really devoted to their academics, what's going on, their upcoming graduation, that's where their focus is. It's hard to kind of navigate a lot of the student loan information too while you have all that going on. So Inceptia is a great resource. You'll see a couple websites down here too that you can find more information, inceptia.org, and also fa.financialavenue.org. So just know that these resources will be available to you. You might not use them up front, but just kind of keep them in the back of your mind that anytime that you have questions about student loans, you can always reach out to us at the financial aid department. We're happy to help. But also you have this organization that you can reach out to that's independent of your federal servicers, and they can also give you some great guidance and information. So,
Thank you, Mike.
yeah.
So I know we've had a couple general questions, but this is just a moment to pause. And if anyone attending today has specific questions about the variety of funding and options we have, please feel free to post them in the chat or even send them to the Q&A. Let's see here. I'm just going back through making sure. I don't see any questions so far, but if you have something, please pop it in there. And I think I just want to reiterate, we know life happens, our situations change sometimes completely unexpectedly, but we're always here to, again, help you navigate the variety of funding options at each stage of your education and each stage of your life, to be totally honest. So we're always here if you need to touch base. We just had a great question. Can we get assistance in applying for scholarships? We definitely have general support, like your admissions advisor, your student services advisor can help you as you navigate. Maybe you need someone to look over an essay you wrote or need some creative assistance in looking for scholarships. I know I'm happy to get on a phone call with a student to walk them through those things. But a lot of scholarship work, we're here for like the support system, but it's really the student has to get dirty and gritty and like actually put the time in. But we're here, and I know there's a lot of students who will ask professors and other support staff for letters of recommendation. We're always happy to do that as well. So you do have a great support system. In terms of
And sorry,
oh,
to add on to that, I know for the ACHS adult scholarship, part of that is your academic record that'll be looked at, and we can help pull that um, your transcript in internally. But some of the external scholarships may also be looking for a record of academic success. So if we can help in any way that way, we can link you up with the registrar's office to get a transcript sent anywhere we need to.
yeah,
One thing I'd like to add too is that as students are going through and doing their research and looking at scholarships, there's a lot of credible resources out there available that have great scholarships. But sometimes students will come across scholarships, or they might be advertised scholarships that they're not quite too sure if they're legit, if
mhm.
if they're kind of questionable. So if you do have something like that come up, you're welcome to send that to us too, and we're happy to just kind of give it a second look. I've done that for students. Your admissions advisors, I'm sure, would be happy to do that as well. So it's always great to do that, and just know that if a scholarship is ever asking you for any kind of payment, just know that that's something that you want to stay away from, because that's probably not going to be a reputable scholarship provider.
Very good advice. Or if they ask for pictures of you, probably
Yeah.
not legitimate. They should only ask for an image if you won the scholarship and you're giving them permission to like be on their website as showing as one of the recipients. There's also a question about fellowships. We at this time don't have any specific fellowships or internships, but I do want to shout out our career services, and I'll post the link in our webinar chat. If students are looking for jobs to pay the bills, they're looking to pivot pathways, they're looking for internship mentorships in their field of study, our career services department is 100% available to support you from day one of classes all the way through graduation, and as well as college alumni. So that is a resource that would be fully accessible to you once you're enrolled in classes to receive that support. And I know our program deans are more than happy to support students needing advice on their careers or different professional organizations, hours needed for different professional credentials. We, again, can get you with the right people to get the right information for that as well. Let's see, our next
Question here about funding opportunities for micro-credentials or certificate programs. So good question. So what we've been talking about today is focused in on our accredited degree programs. You know, our certificate programs would fall under that umbrella as well. Those are a part of the accredited program catalog. Micro credentials are a separate offering that we have here at the school. Those are direct purchase. You don't have to be admitted to those courses to take them. You take them on your own speed. So we currently don't have any funding available for those. However, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, students do get a discount on those. Is that right?
No, there are, as a current student, there is special codes for our continuing education courses. But standalone micro credentials, unfortunately, there's not a general discount. However, sometimes we'll see throughout the year a special as we like in January, there was a special code that students, non-students, the public was given for a small percentage off. But I will say we do offer, if you are very interested in one of our professional micro credentials, I highly recommend signing up under our apothecary shop website. And I just posted the link because it's through our apothecary shop, there is a special payment plan option that way, where you can split up the cost of that micro credential into a few or several payments to make it a little bit more manageable as you complete it over a few months.
And some micro credentials are free. So if there's one that is of interest to you, they may or may not have a fee associated with it.
Yeah. So that's a great question. But all of our undergrad certificates, as well as our graduate certificate programs, are financial aid eligible and seen as full accredited, recognized curriculum, programs.
See that Milka asked a great question here. They asked if we get a scholarship and we have already taken out loans, can the scholarship cover the loans? So, so just to give a response to that and kind of an example. So, let's say you're in a current semester, you've already utilized student loans, they've already been dispersed, and then you are awarded a scholarship and the school receives those scholarship funds in that same semester. So if that's the case, the nice thing is it opens up some options for the student. So the scholarship would likely create a credit on the student's account, which would mean that if the student wanted, we could refund a portion of those student loans back to the Department of Ed with the student's request. That's one way that we could do it. Another way would be because there's that credit on the student's account. At the end of the semester, that student would be issued that credit themselves, and then they can use those funds to pay back their student loans. So a couple different ways that you can, I guess, kind of cancel out the loans with the scholarship funds that would be coming in.
And just to be transparent as well, as I received some scholarships as an undergraduate student, some scholarships are very specific how the money is spent. So there are some scholarships that say the money cannot be given directly to the student. It has to be used for tuition or books, materials. So there can be caveats with that, just so you're aware. Some money, it is allowed for us to issue a balance check, so you can use that in other ways or to pay down your student loans early. But just so you know, they all can have their little ins and outs of what they require, but they are typically 99% of the time, those funds are usually issued to the college and applied to your account immediately, because that's the way they, make sure that the money's being used for educational purposes. Awesome. Any other questions? Alston, unfortunately, we don't have an email, but we can put together a special email for you for sure, later on. Mhm. Okay, awesome. Let's go to the next slide. There's a few things I want to cover. We have about 5 minutes. Just really briefly talk about the admissions process as a whole. Any of the programs you're looking at, we do have a formal online application. It's pretty simple. It's asking about your story, your background, and what you're passionate about, what your goals are. We also need your official transcripts. If you're not sure about how to order transcripts or which ones are needed, required, your admissions advisor will 100% support you with that. But in order to complete your application as a whole, the application must be submitted, transcripts must have arrived, and then we move it to the admissions committee. We usually hear back in about 24 to 48 hours, to be honest, because those are reviewed almost daily. Once you hear back on acceptance, we request a transfer of credit evaluation, and then we reach out regarding your academic plan, book preferences, and then depending on what kind of funding you're wanting to pull together, we're going to walk you through those steps and help you get that all set up. Once we finalize, every new student completes a new student orientation over about 7 to 10 days. It's sort of mimicked to match how classes work. That's why it's open. And then, of course, classes start typically the week after orientation ends. Next slide. So right now, we're actually still helping a few students finalize their funding and registration to start classes next Thursday on the 27th. And to be totally honest, depending on the student, the situation, we still have seats available both at the graduate and undergraduate level. So if you are free, you have time, you want to jump in, take 1 or 2 classes, definitely get in touch with us. We're here to help you get through that admissions process and see if we can get your transcripts ordered within 24, 48 hours to support you with that step. And then we've already also started helping students apply for classes that begin May 5th. And that's our full 15-week semester. One sort of little thing that not everyone is aware is ACHS is a continuous enrollment college, which means we don't shut down for the summer. So our summer semester is just like our fall and spring semester. It's a full 15-week term where you can begin your program and be taking up to a full-time course load if that works for you. Next slide. And here's our lovely team. You may recognize some names and faces already. We all work together. It's about putting the student first. So you may already have someone you've been matched up with, but if you have not, feel free to reach out to anybody you'd like or go directly to our admissions advisor website to the calendar page. But we're all here to support you and be the best resources and advocates possible, all the way from applying, acceptance, and actually enrolling into classes. So we got your back.
One thing I want to just tack on before we close today, the 3 of us on the call today, as well as everyone working here at ACHS, knows every situation is different. There is no one way that is better than another. It's all about what way works best for you. So the admissions team here that you're seeing, they're going to be sort of your first contact. We get questions sometimes, can I talk with financial aid first and then decide if I want to do this? Not, unfortunately, no. So one of the things is we want to understand what you're trying to do and determine if this is a good fit. And then we will assist you with setting up those appointments with Mike and Megan and anybody on the financial aid team to continue on that personal service. So
And part of that's just also respecting your privacy. We don't open and access FAFSAs if you're not an accepted student. That doesn't really feel good to us just to be navigating everyone's personal information, hundreds of people's information possibly every day. So we definitely work with you uniquely one-on-one to support your questions and help you through that.
And if you have enjoyed today's webinar, I encourage you to check out our links here, especially that second one, our YouTube link, ACHS TV. If you just search within YouTube for ACHS TV, it'll take you there. And Amanda's dropped the link there. We have a ton of videos from many, many years, and all of the webinars we've been doing recently are there. If you have a little bit more time, you can work through that, but there's also some shorter videos, some things that are just interesting. So I encourage you to get on there and take a look. Um,
Great way to
I
put names.
guarantee it'll get you excited.
Mhm. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We'll be sending a recording in case you want to rewatch. And if you need anything at all, please do not hesitate to contact us today. We're here to help. Have an amazing day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.